Welcome back. This time round I've picked up a DGS-1100-10MP. It's an 8-port, well 8 plus 2 SFP ports, gigabit Ethernet switch with PoE, but when I tried to factory default it from its, to get rid of the original owner's configuration, it got stuck in some sort of weird firmware update, almost like, well, I'll say a firmware update loop, but it wasn't quite like that. But yeah, so this is a bit of a video on how I recovered it from that. Your mileage may vary if you're trying to do this, but this worked for me. So yeah, let's get into it and see how it goes. So I picked up this DLink DGS-1100-10MP Ethernet switch. I thought I'd use it as the switch from my workshop actually, because the current switch is a little power hungry, certainly more power hungry than this will be, and doesn't support PoE. But yeah, when I tried to factory reset it, I came up with a little bit of a problem. So I'll show you that and show you how to fix it, and maybe that'll help someone that's come across one of these switches and is having the same problem I am. So yeah, let's hook into that. So first up, take my Ethernet cable, which is plugged into my computer, plug that into, I don't know, pick a port 1, and we'll plug some power in. Now, when I got this switch, it still had configuration on it from its previous owner, and I didn't know the password or the IP address or anything useful to get into it. So the trick is you turn it on, like in this case I'm just going to plug the cord in, and that noisy fan will quieten down in a minute. And at this point the switch is booted, and we can see I've got a link on port 1, that's where my Ethernet cable is plugged in. Now what we need to do is press the reset button with I'm just using a bit of bent wire here, but you can use a paper clip or whatever works. Push that in and hold it until the LEDs go through a bit of a cycle. We'll see that in a minute. Right, I'll hold it, keep holding it still. I don't know how, right. I think at that point you can let it go. And eventually it will boot back up. Or it is booting back up now. Right. And at this point, we theoretically booted back up. It does its factory reset, which is what we did with the reset button. Its default IP address is 10.90.90.90. And, oh, okay. So previously when I did this, it came up with a screen that just offered me a box to select a firmware file and upload it. But now it's actually factory defaulted properly. So as you probably guessed, I've been through this process already, so that's obviously why it's fixed itself. But I'll show you what I went through anyway, just to reset it, to get it working to this point. So yeah, all I could do was get into a page where it let me upload a firmware file, and then it would just rinse and repeat, do the same thing. It wouldn't actually factory reset its settings. So yeah, I'll show you what I did. So to resolve that issue, we disconnected everything, unplugged the power, and pulled it apart. We've got a couple of screws just here, just little screws, so careful not to drop them, because they're small enough that you'll have trouble finding them again. So there's those two, and then we flip it over, and there's another two. Now we turn it upside down because this part of the case has got to come apart that way. So with the screws out, we can just put our screwdriver in here and just pry it open. We'll do this side. Now it should, but it doesn't. Just do a bit more. There we go. And now this will slide apart like that. And the lid will lift off. So this is the inside of the the switch, we've got our Ethernet ports there, our SFP cage. This, I'm sure, is going to be our processor. We've got our flash module, I think there, power supply obviously. I think this is part of the PoE support. Now do have to be careful in here because, as we can see here, we've got exposed terminals, and we're going to be plugging this into mains power shortly with the lid off. So we need to be careful because we've got mains terminals there that are exposed, and we've got this power supply that can have some high voltages in it. So we've got to be careful there. Not to mention this capacitor will give you a nasty bite if you're not careful as well. So what I noticed when I popped this open the first time was I've got these connectors here. Now, honestly, I have no idea what they are, but we've also got over this side, we've also got a 10-pin edge, or not edge connector, a 10-pin like pin header, and that to me looks a lot like a serial port. So let's explore that a little bit. So we'll hook the oscilloscope up, give it a ground, and we'll pick a pin, and we'll just turn the switch on, plug it in, and again being careful because we've got the exposed terminals. And put it back on there and see if we get anything on the oscilloscope. I don't know what's supposed to be coming out of here, but that's a constant high, that pin. Aha! And on this pin, we have a signal coming out of it, which I'm suspicious is serial data. So what I found was that this pin down the end here, this one, appears to be a transmit data pin, and a bit of a spoiler because I've already worked some of the others out, it appears that these ones down this side are just ground, and this one right down the other end appears to be a receive data pin. So what I will do, I've got one of these USB to like TTL serial adapter things. You quite often see them with Arduinos and what have you. Got the switch set to 3.3 volts because on the oscilloscope these were peaking at about 3.3, 3.4 volts. And we'll plug it in. Our ground is the brown, so they can go to pretty much any pin on this side. So we'll go to that one. And our, where are we? Receive data on our little, no, it came off. Receive data, I think, is that one. So it's transmit out of the router into the receive data on our adapter. Plug that back into the ground. And then we've got our white wire here goes into the transmit on the little USB adaptery thing. So we'll plug that into there. And we can see our little adapter there. So I'll plug that into a USB, where's my USB cable? Plug that into a USB cable, like so. Right, so I've got secure CRT running. At the moment I've just got it, this is COM port 8, that's just what this little adapter showed up as on my computer, was COM port 8. But use whichever port it shows up as on your computer. And I've just started at 9600 for want of a, got to start somewhere, right? So we'll turn the power on. Well, we'll turn the power off first. Oh, okay. It's already started showing up. Anyway, we'll power it on. And this is what it does when it boots up. He jumped the gun a little bit before because I hit the reset button by accident. So this is what a D-Link switch does when it boots up. And it's dropped us at this diag prompt. So if I go help, it shows me all the commands I can use. Now I can see what the IP address currently configured on the switch is by doing IPv4 get, and this will show me the 1090.90.90 because that's what it's currently set to. The last time I did this, when I was recovering it, it had a completely different address from the previous owner's network. And I can also do IPv4 set, actually we'll go help IPv4. We can go IPv4 set static, or we can go DHCP. And again, we'll just go 10.90.90.90, mask 255.255.255.0, gateway we'll go 10.90.90.1. So this is how we'd change the address. I mean, we're just setting it back to the address it's already got, but if we wanted to change it, this is how we could do it. The other thing we can do is, if you want to see what the password is, this is a bit scary, you can go pwget, I think it is. No, pwget admin. Password of admin is admin. Now last time I did this, it gave me the admin password of the previous owner's configuration. So anyway, there's various other commands you can play with. Some of them, I don't know, you may brick your switch if you try them, I don't know. But the one that I'm interested in, or was interested in, is the erase config command. So, and this is a bit misleading because it says erase config 0 or 1, but that's actually not what it means. So you go erase config, and if you go erase config 0, it's like, it doesn't know what that is. What it really means is erase config 1. So we've just erased config 1, and we can go erase config 2. And now we've factory defaulted. Well, we've erased the config, and when it reboots, which we'll do in a minute, it'll apply a factory default config. So we go to reboot. And it says, yeah, some of the current saved settings are invalid, loading factory defaults. So yeah, it's just putting factory defaults in it. It's rebooted. It says save factory default to flash, and system warm started. So now I can plug my Ethernet cable back in. And we'll see on the screen, I think here, yep, Giga F1 link up. So now I can go 10.90.90.90, and this is what the switch would look like if it literally came out of the box brand new. And the default password for these, I believe, is admin. And yeah, we're in. We'll ignore the wizard next time, exit, and here we are. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how to, well, that's, I don't know if it's the right way, but that's how I recovered this switch from an issue it had where it was just, whenever I tried to factory default it would come up asking for firmware. How, why it ended up like that, I don't know. But yeah, I did a erase config, and yeah, everything seems all right. So yeah, hopefully that helps someone.